me.
Cheers.
Good evening, everybody. Photography Live and Uncut, and it is the 50th episode. I am so happy about this. If anyone creeps in through that back door in a minute, it'll be my wife, but I've told her not to. She was going to come in and cheer. Delighted to have my guest today. I've got to be honest, I've known him for a number of months. He's a master in the arcana. There's a big story on the back of that front, but to my disgrace, I only went onto his website literally a few days ago and I was bowled over. It's Les Imgrund from Australia. Welcome, Les.
Hey, Paul. How are you? Thank you very much. It's nice to be here early, but it's awesome to be here. Thank you.
That's what I was going to say, because I thought you were in Sydney. You're not. You're in beautiful Perth, and it's 3:15 in the morning. So I can't thank you enough for that. That's enough in itself.
No problem at all. No, my pleasure. It's awesome. Even my son knows. He's asleep, of course, but he said, "You've got a call in the morning, Daddy, haven't you?" I said, "Yes, I have."
Brilliant. He's rad. I hope he watches the show later when it's on YouTube. That'd be brilliant. I'd be interested to know what he has to say. I've got a new fan down in Perth. So, okay, so usually I start the show off and ask you where you're based. Well, we know you're in Perth, but whereabouts specifically in Perth are you, Les?
I'm in Mandurah, which is about 80 kilometres, 50 miles from Perth south, which is very nice. We're actually in the what we call the Peel Inlet. And so we've got ocean on one side and an estuary on the other. So it's awesome down here.
Pretty place by the sound of things.
It is. Yeah, it's awesome.
I'm getting into a little bit of a mold here with regards to how I start my show off. I'm really intrigued to know, what was your first recollection of a camera?
Okay, so a couple of things kind of blended together, I guess. My dad had a Voigtlander, and when I was about from memory about 5 or 6, I remember Dad showing me a couple of things, or me and my brother, I should say, and it was intrigued us. And then I guess as little boys, then you don't know too much, but then Mum and Dad bought us Kodak brownies.
Right.
And we just thought we were the bee's knees, running around and click. And it was the full plastic version, with you couldn't do anything, full auto type of thing. And it was just awesome, as little boys. From what I remember, a few of these were pretty average, but that's the very first time I think I saw anything like that.
Would you say that photography sort of grabbed you at that stage, or were you too young? Were you still sort of cricket, football, rugby, maybe?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I've thought a bit about that, and I think one of the things was I didn't ever think I wanted to be a photographer at all, but it was something that I wanted to do. It was always in the back of my mind, and I guess dreams of being a photographer. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. It was more, I guess, maybe being in Australia, you at the time I grew up, I'm 45. So the thing is we spent a lot of our time, our life outside with Dad, in the shed and mucking around, fixing cars and playing and things like that. So maybe that's a little bit different, but in time, that changed. But as a little bloke, no, it was more about Dad in the shed and my brother and playing and stuff like that. So,
getting out in the open. It's interesting actually, because I didn't really pick up a camera till I was around about 17 or 18. That's when I took an Instamatic camera to the Monaco Grand Prix. all my friends had an SLR, Pentax, Canons and Nikons. There was me with my Instamatic. I thought, I think I better get a camera here. So that's the way we start, I played with my grandfather's box Brownie. I didn't have a clue what it was. I couldn't understand this smoky little screen, as I mentioned on a previous show. It's ridiculous. It's funny how little things happen. You think, I quite like this. I'm going to get a little bit more involved. But for me, at school, we had a dark room in the art block, and but the lure of the rugby and the football and the cricket pitch was a little bit too much for me. I was huge on the sport at that time.
Yeah.
So you Sorry, go ahead, carry on.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's one of those things you later on you tend to make connections, and literally as you were talking, then I thought, that sparked my memory. My brother in high school, he was into photography big time as well, and I remember I was about 16, I think, and he brought some gear home from school, and he let me use it, because it was kind of like, no, you're not. And I used, and it was a film camera, and all this stuff, and so there's little things as I think about it. There were different points in my life at different
Yeah,
times, and it always intrigued me, but I never thought that, yeah, okay, that's what I'll go and do. But it was always something that was there, even in the periphery,
yeah.
without, but it was there for
Did
sure.
you get involved much with art at school?
I was told in year 8, so first year of high school, you shouldn't sing and you probably shouldn't do art.
No.
Yeah, yeah.
How
So,
amazing.
so yeah, so I buried myself in manual arts
Yeah.
and sport.
It's
And that
it's
was it.
funny, isn't it, how these things happen? Because I didn't enjoy art at school. I hated cutting all these shapes up and trying to do these mosaics. Oh, get out of here. Go and do
Yeah,
something else. Get me out on
yeah.
that rugby pitch. That's what I wanted to do.
Absolutely. I mean, I guess I didn't really like school very much either. I
Right.
lived for the weekends because,
Mm,
later on in high school, which sounds stupid because I was a teacher as well, but,
mm.
later on, but I think I lived for the weekends because of where we lived, and I just couldn't wait. It was the inconvenience of the school week was what I
Mm.
had to get through to get to the weekend.
Yeah,
Um,
we have this picture of Australia in the northern hemisphere of teaching via radio. This is obviously not your situation. You obviously managed to get into the school.
Yeah, yeah, no, we that's the School of the Air. That's
Yeah.
mainly for, well, not mainly, but it is for the kids in the bush, as we
Mhm.
say.
Yeah.
Not for us. I mean, we've got some of the biggest schools in the country here, along with the
Lovely.
other capital cities, of course. So, yeah, there's many schools around.
Yeah.
It's huge.
So it's interesting you say you didn't enjoy school, you lived for the
Mm,
weekend, but you became a teacher.
mm.
And
Yeah, yeah.
so how did this turn around?
As I said, I guess school wasn't something that I really enjoyed, and at the back end of high school, we started to shoot. We were rifle shooters at the time, and so that
Right.
was something that I really enjoyed, and I went on competitively and went international and so on, and it was. Towards the end, like in year 11 and 12, that's our leaving years, and at the time it was the TE, and I had no idea what I wanted to do, to be
Hmm.
perfectly honest, Paul. I had no idea. So, mum and dad said, look, unbeknown to me, they've been watching me, and said, you teach people. You're
Right.
always teaching people. When you have learnt something, you teach it. Have you thought about being a teacher? And I remember I looked at them and I said, you've got to be
You gotta
kidding.
be
Like,
kidding.
you- you're, a 16-year-old boy, and mum and dad are talking about
Going back to
becoming a
school.
teacher, like what, really? So I had no idea, I had
Yeah.
no idea. And yeah, funny story with that, I suppose, I remember the one time that dad and I really disagreed on something,
Mhm.
and then I saw it his way, I suppose, and it was the way it was. But, I said, no, dad, I want to go and do a trade. And the look on his face was like,
Oh no.
no, no, you're
Yeah.
not. No, you're
Let's
not.
come back on a point you just mentioned there. You mentioned about international shooting. I did hear
Mm,
earlier when you're talking about this when we had a hangout on the when we were talking about passion photography that evening.
yeah.
Tell me about your shooting. What type of shooting was this?
Sure. Small ball. Oh, I've shot in
Okay.
a couple of disciplines, yeah, but three disciplines actually. But the two disciplines, well, yeah, it's a bit convoluted, but two associations. But the big one, I suppose, was international small ball. I shot at the World Cup circuit, World Champs, and Commonwealth Games. All the nationals and states and stuff like
Wow.
that. But yeah,
Commonwealth
yeah.
Games. Where was that?
Kuala Lumpur in '98. Picked
Fantastic.
up a silver medal there.
I'm talking to a silver medalist here. I'm getting astounded here. Unbelievable. Small ball. I've done some clay pigeon shooting before. I don't.
Nice. Yep.
Did it up at the Formula One Grand Prix driver Jackie Stewart from around about the 70s. He has got an amazing clay pigeon shoot place at Glen Eagles Hotel in Oxford, just in the depths of Scotland there, and went there a couple of times. Did some clay pigeon shooting. What an amazing sport! I was so when I got home, much to Jane, my wife's disappointment, I got all the rifle magazines out. I was going to buy guns and all sorts of stuff, but something changed. Oh, that's right. My little son arrived on the scenes. I thought, let's not have a gun. That's what the son's there. But no, I really enjoy clay pigeon shoot, especially is it skeet shooting, where the you get the clays flying either way. I really enjoyed that. It's a real sort of adrenaline rush on that particular one. But the small bore. So this is almost like a target shoot by sound of things.
Yeah, totally. Yep. So the two basic disciplines in there, or events, I guess, air rifle shot over 10 meters, and the 10 ring is 0.5 millimeter. Okay. And then the small bore rifle, the 22, it's a 22 long rifle that shot over 50 meters. I used to shoot 3P or 3 position and prone, two different events. And that's, as I said, over 50 meters. And the 10 ring is, from memory, I haven't shot since 2000, 9 millimeters.
Okay. I was just going to ask you, when was the last time you shot? And you just answered it, 2000.
Yeah. So, that was interesting. Stuff happened, but the very last match I shot in was the Nationals for a different event, not small bore. Won the Nationals and set two records that are still standing today, I believe. So it's kind of, that's sad.
And you retired at the top.
Yeah. It was the one thing, and this sounds really silly, but it was the one thing that I kind of had planned, in the goals. You set goals and you think, well, what can we do? And I once I started, I thought it would be awesome to be like state or national champion in 2000, because it's the new millennium, all that sort of stuff, and you kind of put it out there and you think, okay, well, we'll give it a bash and see what happens. And then it came up, it was like, amazing. Wow, and it really blew me away on the way home. You
weren't tempted to be something like a Redgrave and say, right, I'll get back on it and get myself into the Olympics, nothing like that. No, you weren't tempted.
No, you know what? It's been really, and that's the thing. I think, one of the things, you mentioned, we were talking about passion, and that's one of the points. I think, when it burns inside, that it's the passion for you. When you can't do anything because it aches so much, that's what you should be doing. And that burnt inside me for years. Even after I'd finished, it was just years. And my wife, she would say, just go and do it. No, I'm not walking that path again. There are other things that we're doing.
I know exactly where you're coming from, actually, Les, because I used to play a lot of golf myself. When I wasn't a PGA professional teacher. I got a diploma in golf teaching, and I got quite involved with the Kent Junior golfers, and it was there. It was just, I was out. If I wasn't practicing, I was playing, or I was teaching some kids, or being part of the coaching of the kids. And it, as you say, in a roundabout way, it's strange, isn't it? It sort of feels as though it's eating away at you. You want to do it, but at the same time, I had to be so careful, and it was injury in actual fact that I had to stop playing golf. But it does, in actual fact, affect home life, because grab my clubs in the bag, car off to the golf club, come back around about 6 or 7 hours later. My wife was looking after 2 little kids, and of course it got worse for her later when my son took up golf, and the both of us would go off. Of course she would be late. Of course it got worse on that front, but I had to stop. I know exactly where you're coming from with regards to passion, because it does, it almost eats away at you, but you love it, you want more. And it was as I say, I had to stop because of injury, and it wasn't a case of me wanting to go back to. I haven't missed playing golf for, what was it? It must have been around about nearly 8 years ago that I stopped playing.
Okay.
I haven't missed it one time. Let's go right the way back. We jumped forward there because we started talking about you getting involved with teaching. What was the first camera that you bought after your that was a present, wasn't it? The little Kodak. What was the first camera that you bought?
90. what was it, 96, 97? Digital was kind of just
Yeah,
happening
just
in a
about starting.
roundabout way. Or I beg your
Mhm.
pardon, not no, no, it was 99,
Right. Okay.
99 or 2000. Sorry, my mistake. And I forget what it was, but it was the code. Not the big one that you used to put the floppy disk in, although I'd use those, but
Mhm.
it was like 1.2 megapixel or something like that. It was,
Amazing,
I
isn't it?
just thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
You had I forget how small the card was, but CF card. But yeah, that was the first camera that I'd bought that was digital.
I'm not
Um,
familiar with the codecs at that time, so they basically were, because if anything, I was still basically using film cameras. But
yeah,
so this is something like a compact type camera, or is it
yeah,
interchangeable
yeah.
lenses?
No, 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 just a point and shoot. I really like imagine a box brownie,
Yep.
but digital. You couldn't do anything for like a very,
Point
very
and shoot.
basic point and shoot. That's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
all it was. But I loved it. I used to stand over the top of the fence and shoot out. We lived on a main street
Uh-huh.
at the back of us, and some of the sunrises and stuff like that. I still remember. Now I haven't got those images, of course,
No.
but I still remember standing there and looking at it and just going, "Look at that!" Like, wow, it's
Yeah.
in the camera now. It blew my
Amazing.
mind. Yeah, yeah,
So that now, what age are you at this point, Les?
yeah. 45.
No, I'm sorry. When
Oh,
you had
sorry.
your Kodak compact.
Oh, what was I? 30. Yeah, 30.
Yeah. So you're getting to a situation now where photography is starting to really get hold an interest for you.
Yeah, yeah. It was strange because I actually remember not long after that, I just, for whatever reason, I woke up one morning
Mm.
and I went to the Canon Australia site, and they had the Canon 10D, and that was just the bee's knees type setup, and the 1DS wasn't out at that time, but the 10D was sitting there as well as the camera. And I used to think, wow, I'd love one of those. But at the time, it was so expensive. I
Yeah.
don't remember, but it was crazy expensive.
Mm.
And I thought, no, I'll just keep using my Kodak. It's
Yeah.
good enough.
When did you start getting into this nature photography interest?
Yeah. Wow. I guess, again, kind of always related. I've always enjoyed being outside.
Mm.
That's kind of what I did. So, and I always enjoyed seeing, the animals and so on. And of course, the birds always attracted me
Yeah.
because of where we live. So around 2002, I bought a 1DS. Well,
Okay.
actually, I bought a Rebel, what we call the Rebel. So it's different. It was, I forget what it was. I think the 300 or thereabouts, and a couple of lenses. And I thought, this is just fantastic. And it bit me so bad, Paul, that I thought,
Mm.
no, I'm going to grab a 1DS.
Wow.
And that was it. And it was like, my brother looked at me when I said it, and he said, "You what?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm going to grab a 1DS." And he said, "All right, go for it." And I loved it, and that was the beginning of it. So 2002, that was the beginning, because I had the lens, and I had the camera, and I had no more excuses,
What
which was
lens did you
awesome.
buy at the time when you bought that camera? Because obviously
Um,
you're in a totally different alley with regards to photography that I am. Being my passion is street photography, your nature. What was the lens you bought for that?
Um, I'm ashamed to admit it in a sense, but I'm not. Yeah, I only had the 70 to 200 f4
Fair enough.
at the time, but I had the two by converter, teleconverter on it,
Yep.
and of course you lost all focus and stuff like that. It was all manual focus, but it
Mhm.
didn't matter. I still tried, I still did it, and I
Mm.
loved it. Only a 12 megapixel image, but it worked. And then very quickly I got a 400 mil after that.
Did you join any camera club local to you, or did you just carry on with your own way?
No, I just did it. I just enjoyed playing, and I still do.
Yeah.
I love learning, and so I'm a voracious reader, I suppose, as some
Mm.
people would say, and I enjoy listening to people talk about what they do. But no, just all self-taught until I got to the Arcanum.
Amazing. Okay, so here we go, guys. If you're watching, be prepared to be amazed, because I'm going to go to screen share now, and we're going to have a look at this fantastic work. Let me make sure before I do that I'm on the right page. There we go. And you should be seeing now, Les, your very first
Yeah.
picture, which is shown on the
Yep.
on your site, the 500px site.
Yep. Yeah. It's
Um,
a splendid fairy wren. Yeah.
so what I'm going to do here, Les, as I do with all my other guests, I'm just going to flick through and talk about the images. What I'm interested to know, in actual fact, as we go through this, how about this? How do you actually set yourself up? You're going to go and do some nature photography. What's the process? What's your routine? I love routines. What's your routine
Yeah.
of setting yourself up to go on one of these shooting
Hmm.
escapades, shall we say?
Yep. Well, fortunate that it's just down the road, literally from where I live. So you get to know the weather, of course, and that's the most important thing for me. Where is the weather headed and what's going on. So once I've done that, then it's grab my gear and get going and go for a walk. But usually when I get to a location, definitely a location that I know or I think I know, I usually just stand there for a while, and sometimes I just sit down and close my eyes and listen
Right.
and smell. And because I think one of the things that I try to do is because what I don't travel a great deal at this point, with our little bloke running around.
Hmm.
The focus is on him, not on me. But when I do get to go out, I think, well, it's close. So you tend to miss, in my experience, with me, you tend to miss things. So, I just sit down for a while and hands in my pockets and just wait
Yeah.
and listen. And then, that might be 5 minutes, it might be 10 minutes, but I'm never in a rush.
You're
It's,
just soaking in the whole atmosphere, aren't you? By the sound of things,
yeah,
just
yeah.
getting being one with nature, so to speak.
Yep. Yep. My camera is always set up, on the tripod if I'm using it. Otherwise, I just
Sure.
handhold and see, this image here that we're looking at with the pink and greys, but they're galahs
Hmm.
technically, is in the backyard.
Wow.
Yeah, just walked out and they're playing. This is a male and a female. The
The,
the
the,
male's on the left and the female's on the right. And they're playing.
wow.
We've had up to 40 of them in the backyard. So
Yeah, the
it's
closest
just
I get to
awesome.
these, someone in my local area, I think they were from India, managed to get some parakeets into the country. They obviously went through quarantine and they escaped. Now we've
Oh
got
no.
quite a number of parakeets flying around, and that's that
Yep.
greenish type bird.
Yeah, yeah.
But they're always so high up; they never stop in my garden. The closest I got to a colourful bird would be a blackbird.
Yeah.
But this is a fantastic image. Let's just talk about this image. And look, first, just for my people, my guests that are watching, we've got a few watching, which is absolutely superb. Look at the clarity. Look at the detail in the feathers here, especially around the head. And you've hit it because you've got that eye in perfect focus.
Yeah. I sometimes I wonder, whether the background in shooting actually helps, because I was a very
Yep.
good standing shooter, and it's
Um,
the most difficult position to shoot, and this is just handheld.
I was going to
At
ask you
home,
that because
yeah,
you've obviously, through time, learnt how to be still,
yeah,
and that obviously helps when you're taking this sort of photography. Let me just scroll down because I can see
yeah,
you had a where is it, 700mm lens on this camera at
yep,
400th of a second. Well, in the old school days, that's well below what you should have been shooting with a 700mm. I'm
correct.
assuming the
That's
70s are full frame, isn't it?
70
So,
is a crop. No,
oh,
that's
it's
a
a crop,
crop
is
as
it?
well.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
wasn't.
yeah.
I'm not
No,
a
you're right.
Canon side. But the
That's actually no, that's wrong, Paul. That can't be. So that should be a one. That's with the 1DX.
oh, right, okay, which
Yeah,
is the
that is
full
a
frame.
1DX. Yeah, that's full frame. Yeah, yeah,
So even so, even with the full frame, 700mm,
yep,
you're breaking the rules there by shooting at
yeah,
400th of a second. And look at the
yeah,
detail on that.
yeah.
Unbelievable. You got legs like rocks. Different image here. My cat's lovely title for image.
Yeah, that's bee eater. We only get them down here for a little while
Hmm.
they breed, and that was the very first time. That was the very first image I made of a bee eater,
Hmm.
which blew my mind. I was like a kid in a candy store, seeing that, because it just flipped my brain out to see them
Yeah.
sitting there right in front of me. With a dragonfly as well. It
Oh, you just
yeah, it's
again, you nailed it.
crazy.
You nailed it. Beautiful bokeh at the back, or bokeh, whatever you say, bokeh, I suppose it
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
This is a great image as well. Look at the droplets of water around the gull's head there.
it's
Superb and beautiful
yeah.
reflection. This is obviously close to where you live again, yeah?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, just in the, or not just, but it is in the Peel Inlet, and that's yeah, low tide was really. We had a strange patch, I suppose, of very calm weather, and the light was great. This is, you know, relatively early in the morning, and it, yeah, it just happens. This is the sort of thing that I think people forget sometimes with nature photography. You just have to sit and wait,
Yes.
you know, and then you
Yeah.
see it, and then, you know, once you begin to see what the animals are doing, then you can preempt what they're doing. So
Just amazing clarity.
mm.
When it comes to the work after you've taken the image and you bring it back and you put it through the editing process, how much work are you actually doing on the images, Les?
So it depends which one I'm shooting, Paul.
Right.
If it's birds, then minimal. You know, I because it's all in RAW. So I guess, you know, when people say it's minimal work, I guess you have to keep in mind that for anyone shooting in RAW, we all know we have to do something, and that usually means, you know, curves, levels, whatever you use,
Yeah.
whichever tool you use. Maybe some noise reduction, maybe some cropping. Obviously, this is, you know, 1:1 crop.
Yeah.
And that's basically it, you know, for me. But in my landscape images, it totally depends, you know, what I'm up to. You know, this is
Yeah.
a manual blend of 5 images from memory.
Okay.
And in this one, for landscape, I really just play. And I mean, I play it. That's how I see all of my photography. I get to play, and I love it. You know, it's not
Yeah.
work. It's never work. I get to go and play. And the landscape work is something where I get to play. And so you know, I kind of don't mind if people don't like it. I'm okay with that. I listen to what people say, and you know, think about it and process it, and, you know, how can it improve my work. But it's kind of the one thing that I do where I follow rules, but I just play with it, you know, and how it turns out is how it turns out. The interesting thing, and a few of the guys know, you know, now, but I am colorblind as well. So
Really? I didn't
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. So it's
So
always
when we talk
interesting.
about color blindness,
Yeah.
what do you what colors do you see and what colors don't you see?
Sure. So anyone who is colorblind would know, you know, red green
Yep.
is the most typical. So that's what I am. But I'm really quite colorblind in the spectrum of things. It's kind of, you know, quite significant. I mean, in this image here, I can see the colors,
Yep.
but please don't ask me to name them. You know, I don't specifically know. I know there are greys and yellows and browns and reds and so on, but if you get too technical with it, I'll just fall apart. So I have to run with the feeling of it. You know, what did it look like when I was there?
I'm with you.
And I try to remember, you know, the colors that were there when I saw it, and then try and reproduce that when I get home. Now, I
Yeah.
don't necessarily know what the colors were. Sorry, Paul. I don't
No.
necessarily know what the
Okay.
colors were,
No.
but I try to match in my mind what I saw and now what I'm seeing on the display.
Interesting point you make, actually, because when I spoke to Karen Hutton, she said almost exactly the same thing. I don't think she suffers from color blindness, but her attitude was she took the photograph, then she took it home to develop as what she wanted to see or she saw.
Yeah,
So it could be quite a bland image that she's got back when she's brought it and put it into Lightroom, but she's got a little bit of an artistry into her work. So she then develops certain aspects of the image to create
yeah,
her artwork.
yeah. Yeah, I think, you know, and that came in time. It's not, I was very, try to reproduce it as accurately as I could. And it used to blow my mind, you know,
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. And I get my wife to check it, and she'd say, look, you've got this there or that there. And it's like, I can't even see that, you know. So
Right.
eventually, you know, I thought, well, just try and I guess maybe that's why I stop at the beginning of a session, no matter where I am, whether it be on the beach or like this is the estuary, or I mean, and the colors here are as close to real as I could get it, because I was photographing birds behind me, and the light really started to shift, and I turned around and saw the sun starting to come through the clouds, and I thought, wow. And then you know, serendipity, I suppose, you know, a flock of pelicans landed,
Yeah.
and started preening themselves right here. And I thought, this is unreal. And the tide was moving out, and then the sun started to come through, and I thought, okay, I've got it.
Yeah.
And the colors blew me away when I saw it. And you know, that this is kind of what I try to do. It feels unreal, but this day, that's exactly what was there. You
Yeah.
know, and that's what I try to do now. You know, just show what was there, not
I'm assuming
not
you've got your
anything else.
screen calibrated for correct color. Yeah.
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, every
It's
couple of
just
weeks.
that's a
Mm.
beautiful shot. Look at that.
Yeah, yeah, Canal Rocks, you know, down south. It's in Yellingup, a town down near Margaret River.
Hmm.
My wife and I love this location. You know, it's awesome. It's a very high tourist area, but you know, this particular day you can't see it. But there's for Perth, a
Hmm.
heap of photographers. There are about 6 of us standing there,
Right.
and that was like, you know, that's peak hour, you know, for WA.
Yeah.
So it was interesting seeing that, you know. But it's just awesome, you know. I love places like this. It puts everything into perspective. You know, these rocks are about between 10 and 20 meters high,
Yeah.
you know, from the base, and so those waves are huge. You know, the sea was
Yeah.
huge this night.
Really
So
coming in nice one. I can see you're using an 815 millimeter
yeah,
lens here.
yep, yep.
Focal length 24 mil. Have you converter in there?
No,
Why is
what's
that
going
resolution
on with that?
25, 24 mil?
I have no idea.
Don't worry.
I have
I just maybe put a two times converter on it to get to the 24 mil.
no. That would have been shot at 15 mil,
Yeah.
for sure. Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Not to worry.
I'll have to check
Just
that.
a little techie bit there that I spotted.
Yeah,
I saw this
yep.
one earlier on when I was going through the 500px site earlier on, and I love this. Look at that, where the bird on the far left hand side there with the droplets of water off
Yeah,
its claw or foot, whatever you
yeah,
describe it as.
yeah, yeah,
Unbelievable.
yeah. Avocet's beautiful
Let's just
birds.
look at a few more, and then we'll get
Yeah,
back to. So Raven, is it time for a
yeah.
drink?
That's right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Raven.
yeah, yeah.
So I just took ago and I saw a raven having an argument, literally an argument with a magpie. It
oh
does make
yeah,
me laugh. These birds. Now I'm going to stop on this one because it's called
yeah.
Ghost Bird.
Yep.
How did this come about? It's a
Okay,
long exposure.
that's correct.
Is
Yeah.
that what happened?
Yeah, yeah. So I was just shooting, and as you can see, you know, very overcast sky, and I thought,
Uh-huh.
okay, what do I do here? You know, nothing much going on. The sun was a flop, so you know, try and keep going with it. So I did, and the birds were flying around, and I thought, you know what, this would be awesome if you know, one of you guys would just sit here for a little bit, but not too long. And as it happens sometimes, you know, your wishes become, you know, reality in a sense.
Yeah,
And the gull came and perched on the branch, and I went 1, 2, 3, and then he took off, and that was left. So it was just enough there that
yeah,
you couldn't get the movement of him flying in or out, but
yeah,
he was there for long enough to make a, you know, an imprint on the
yeah.
image. And I love it, you know, for lots of reasons. But yeah, that was that kind of blew my mind.
I'm pleased it's that happened that way. It wasn't sort of just an idea where you've just dropped it in from another image.
Yeah, no, I couldn't do that, Paul. You know,
I know.
I
I
love
didn't
what
know
you
because you can't do that with naked
I
photography.
no, I just couldn't do it.
I'm just gonna watch this one because this one does make me laugh. I'd hate to think what happened next, but look at
Yeah.
this poor soul. He's on his branch, couldn't give a monkey's what's going on, and he's being dive bombed.
Yeah. You know, the backstory with this is a pair of, or the male of the pair of ospreys that we've got here, probably the most famous pair that we've got around here, one of the
Yeah,
most successful breeding pairs that we've got. And this day, I go and see them, you know, regularly. They're kind of a, you know, a local for them now, you know, that they are accustomed to seeing me around. And this day, the male had been out fishing,
right.
and mum had 4 kids in the nest with her, and he came back empty-handed, and she gave him what for when he got back. And he was just they because he'd been out for so long, he was saturated, and so that, you know, they've got to preen and dry off and
Yeah,
so on before they hit the water again. he was just minding his own business, and I was actually photographing the nest. And then I looked in the corner of my eye and I thought, oh, he's sitting there. That looks quite good. And then out of the corner of my eye, because I shoot with both eyes open.
Yeah.
And I saw the magpie lark coming across, and I thought, I wonder what he's up to. And then I saw him bank, and he came straight at the osprey. And the osprey, he had no idea what was going on. It was because the magpie lark came in from behind him.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. This is one of a series of 3 images, you know, that you can see, and basically, you know, the magpie lark flares out, and the osprey ducks down. And the awesome thing is with osprey, you know, I guess it saves the other birds, is they're not they're meat eaters, but they eat fish.
Right.
They don't prey on birds or, you know, mammals. You know, it's just fish that you have to worry about what's going on. And so they just sit there. They're some of the most placid birds you can ever meet in terms of raptors. You know, so I guess, you know, these guys know. And the strange thing is, not 30 seconds after this image was made, one of the willy wagtails came through and gave him what for as well. And he's just sitting on his branch, like, no, just not doing anything. But
just leave me alone.
Poor guy.
Dry up.
Yeah, and he did. And you know what? The thing with this was, he Mum yelled, and he took off, and literally, I kid you not, within about 45 seconds, he came back with one of the biggest mullet I've seen.
Really? Oh, he was told off by Mum.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, super images, and we've just done a little synopsis there of basically what of work you got on there. But so to the viewers that are watching, you know, go and have a look at Les's 500px site. Amazing photography. It's the clarity, and then, as you say, when you then start mentioning the fact that you suffer from color blindness, then that brings a whole new puts in a whole new ball game. It's quite amazing. Let's talk about gear for a second, because we're well into the Canons now. The big gear, as I would call it, full frame gear. What's your lens stable, so to speak, Les?
Sure. So I guess we start from the little end, if you like, and go to the big end. 8 to 15 fisheye, as you've seen, 24 to 70 f2.8. I've got a 70 to 200 f4, 70 to 200 2.8, a 400 5.6, and then the 500 f4, and it's a series 1. So Canon have released all of their long lenses in series 2 now. You know, that's sort of, I guess, gear envy or gear lust. You know, I'd love the 500 series 2, but then, you know, you look at the images, and without sounding conceited, you know, I hope it doesn't come across that way, I just can't. I look at my images, and as you said, the clarity and so on, and you think, you know what, it works really well now. You know, I know it will focus a bit quicker because I use the 1DX. You know, and a little bit sharper, but at the end of the day, you know, I look at it and say, I'd rather spend the money on my son. You know,
well, at the end of the day, also, when you say it, if it's not broke, don't fix it. You know, leave it as it is. You know, it's the old saying, isn't it? What's not broke, don't fix, lad. You know, you just stay with the gear you've got. And I do think this is it's not a problem as such, but I do think this is where some photographers get carried away with their gear because it's the latest. They think it's the best. And it's not. You know, I've been fortunate enough to speak to some fantastic photographers that are using field cameras, you know, large format field cameras, and the work is just outstanding. So it's not the gear; it is that eye behind the camera that finds these images and creates it. So that's it. Now, when you go shooting, you take all that gear.
No, it will depend what I'm doing, but usually, and so I don't use a traditional camera bag. I use a pack because I've done a lot of guiding and so on. So I tend to shoulder the tripod with the lens and the camera attached and walk out with that. But then usually, you know, I carry the 500, the 70 to 200 2.8, the 8 to 15, and the 24 to 70, and usually a flash as well, just in case. But, and then
two camera bodies, or just the one all the time?
No, take the two. I take the 70
the two as a backup. Which I can understand, especially if you're by water. I've heard stories of people dropping cameras in water before.
Yeah, I haven't done that
You
yet,
haven't done
Paul.
that.
But
Oh, I shouldn't have said it. I
not,
shouldn't have said it. I'm
no.
tempting fate.
Oh no, I'm no. But I, I was shooting some landscapes, and I had my camera set up, and I had the 1DX with the 24-70 on it, and nothing much was going on. I grabbed a couple. The sun just flicked through really quickly on the sunrise. And I thought, oh well. And I left it set up and on the tripod, and I took about 5 steps forward just to have a look at something. Had my hands in my pockets, and I thought, oh well, I guess I may as well, head home. And just as I turned around, I heard thunk,
Oh
and
no.
I thought, oh, what's that? And I turned around, and behind me there's a 1DX pointing straight up into the sky at a
Oh no.
24-70, rolling down towards the water. It had the tripod, one of the tripod legs had actually collapsed on itself. And so there's this lens rolling down towards the water, and this 1DX opened, to the world. And I thought, oh, here we go. So I had a look, and yeah, it snapped the lens off at the bayonet, and
Oh,
it was like,
wow.
oh, here we go. So yeah, spent a couple of weeks in it, CPS,
In
and
the
and
repair
now
shop,
it's
yeah.
fixed. But yeah,
So
but it
that's
happens, it happens.
yeah, it does happen. Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting what you mentioned about your camera gear. That basically, by the sound of things, you actually set the project up for the day's shoot, and you decide the gear that you're going to take. You don't take what I term a just in case bag full of gear that you're probably not going to use.
Yeah, it's well, not that it's too heavy, Paul, I guess, but it's like, well, if I don't actually need it, I take enough for just in case, I suppose, because I take the 24-70, for example, because it's got a semi macro lens. You can get quite close. That's there for me to do a few things, and it's 2.8, so you can get some interesting images with that, and the 8-15. But to be perfectly honest, the 500 with the 1.4 teleconverter goes on the 1DX, and the 70-200 goes on the 7D.
Magic.
And that's
Now,
kind of what I use.
have you ever been tempted to pick the camera up and go street walking and do some street photography?
I do every now and then.
Good for you.
Not a lot. I branch out. I love shooting sport as well, especially the V8s. The supercars over here.
Yeah.
I just love that. It's super interesting to me just to see what you can do, because again, it's like the play. Anything, and I don't see it as work, but I guess my birding and landscape work is like my core interest, if you like.
Yep.
And everything else I'll never say no to. I'll give it a whirl, because it's play, and I find that shooting some sport sharpens you in ways for your core competency, in a sense.
Yep.
So you get to practice other things. You can play with shutter, slow shutter and panning, as you well know. You can do all of those things, and it doesn't matter if it works, and if it doesn't, okay. Nothing
It's not
nothing
the end of the day, is it?
no, not at all. Not at all.
So that's great. We're talking about your photography and your gear there. When did you first hear about the Arcanum?
Wow. I guess I'd signed up. I guess serendipity. I'm guessing that there are a few of us in the Arcanum. I was one of the folks that used to go to Trey's website when he first started his blog, and he used to say, I know my mum's the only one reading this, and I used to say, no, actually, Trey, there's a few of us reading this. I didn't say it to him, of course, but in my mind, I'm thinking, no, there's a few of us, reading this and learning along with you, and so it was always in the back of my mind. I always went to his website, and then one day, the Arcanum came up, and I thought, I wonder, and I thought, okay, do it. You've never, you always been self-taught.
Yep.
This maybe is a chance for you to go and learn from people that are really good at what they do.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, and I put an application in, and didn't think anything too much of it. Every now and then I used to pop in and see what was going on, and make sure, you kind of proofread, you read your application and then walk away from it, and then come back and go, oh, dude, really? You said that. Maybe we'll change that.
Switch that around a bit.
Yeah, and then and to be honest, I'm not sure of when I actually heard about it. It just sort of, there was in my mind pre-Arcanum and then the Arcanum. It's kind of how I separate my photography life out.
Exactly the same with me, actually, because I like you, dip in and out to just look at Trey's work and see a couple of his giveaway tutorials, and bought a couple of his presets, and then the Arcanum. All of a sudden, you got something. I must have come through in the emails, I suppose, because you sign up to the email. And I thought, well, that's sounding. And like you, I'm self-taught. I haven't taken a single paid lesson in photography, and until that time.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it starts the ball rolling. You think, well, yeah, if I get the right tutor that I'm really interested in. At the time, I didn't think of anyone. I just thought, didn't know what route I wanted to take. And it's then that Valerie Jardin was, I think, one of the first masters to set up. So it was. I'm one of the original beta members. So I got an invitation from Valerie, and it went on from there. And sitting in Lounge 20 now, looking forward to what's going to be announced in the very near future. But the thing which I wanted to talk to you about, Les, which is very significant, is the fact that you are the first apprentice to go through, and we must make sure we get this right, because you qualified from apprentice to master before they've actually set this path to the protege schooling in. How did that come about?
So it was always mentioned, when Pete, Trey, and Curtis were talking about the Arcanum and where we were going, the concept behind it was we want to try and grow from inside. We want to use as many masters as we can to develop and build, but then their expertise can be used, a little bit later on, I suppose. And so the idea was to home grow as much as we could. And it was floated a couple of times by Trey in different hangouts that he was a part of, and I thought, why not? You've always, meaning me, always been involved in instructing in some way, no matter what I ended up doing. I've always been doing that, and I love teaching, mentoring, whatever word you use to describe that. Yeah. And I was fortunate that my master is still, Verena Patel. And
okay, I was going to ask who your master was. It was Verena, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So we were the first ones. She opened up on 9th of April 2014, and in we walked. Her cohort, in we walked, and she said yes. I said, what do you know about what do you know about us moving on to become masters, or what's the idea? And she said, I'd be, rapt to help you do that. So that was the beginning of it all. And at the time, Ron Clifford was working with the fast track guys and girls, and that was to work with working pros already, and just getting them up to speed with what was going on within the Arcanum. And so we kind of did a side track to the fast track, if that makes sense. So there's three of us that went through that process, and in the meantime, we had Jessica Lark working on and Ron as well, working, but mainly Jess, working on the path of the protege. And now, we've seen, the awesome thing is, as we were talking about before, we've got Bob Young as the first protege to come through.
That's right. Bob Young, the first one through the protege, which is amazing. Awesome. I've had a look at the protege path, and it is so detailed. It's not a simple thing from what I can look at, and it's something you've got to be dedicated to. It's an amazing setup. And I think, in actual fact, you made a good point. You made a very good point, in the sense that it's nice to hear that Trey and the guys want to grow from within. It's okay. A lot of people I've seen, if I'm going to pay money for someone, I want a professional photographer to be looking after me, in mentoring me. Sometimes that's an ideal world to be involved with, but I think other times it's not, because the professional has got their own life to lead, and they're going to be busy doing their things. And I think if you've got someone who's come through the system, for want of description, is going to spare more time with an apprentice that's, maybe on an email, or maybe just sending a quick text message through Google Plus. What do you think? Am I going in the right direction?
Yeah.
Verena Patel, fantastic photographer, and her husband as well. Then they've many a laugh when I was watching Trey's our podcast that he used to do before he changed it to the Creation Wars. But she's it's quite an amazing work that she puts together. Who, though, would you say I'm not going to ask the question about the favorite photographer though. Is there anyone else that you've seen work from the masters that how can I put this? Not necessarily in your field of nature photography, but another genre, so to speak, that you really admire?
Well, and this sounds a little cliche, but there are so many now that we've got in the Arcanum that, because of their expertise, even though we've got a number of landscape folks as masters, they're all different. There's a different feeling and setting, I guess, that they tend to focus on. I can't really put my finger on anyone because I guess I don't know how many people do it, but I regularly wander over to their sites and have a look, and see what's going on. And so there's nothing that I can really say, well, it's, X or Y. It's more I love A.D. Wheeler's work, for example, with his abandoned escapes. I don't shoot that, but there's something inside of me that looks at that and says, that's just awesome. It just the way he works with it. And I guess the fun that he has, and because it's something that I don't shoot, I guess it's like almost a fantasy for me. I can look at the image and say, that's just awesome, and I learn so much from that. But then I learn from everybody. It doesn't matter who it is. We've got some portrait guys as well that I just look at the images and as strange as this sounds, you see portraiture and you think, how can you apply that to wildlife? And you can. When you look at it, you can, because it's about, how you look and the lighting and so on. So, yeah, I just wander around. I spend, I don't know, a couple of hours a week at different points, just, bits and pieces, just wandering around. And I think Google Plus for me, and I know, we sometimes complain about bits and pieces that happen with it, but usually I wander around on their profiles and follow their links from there and go and have a look at their portfolios and so on. And I do that with the apprentices as well. As long as there is something there, I get lost and sometimes I wander off and it might be, I say, a couple of hours a week, but sometimes it can be,
it can be longer
in one hit. Because I get lost in seeing what people are doing. So
I first came across Google Plus, well, crikey, it was very, very soon after, in actual fact, started, when I saw Thomas Hawke, and obviously Trey was starting to talk about it. And I love Thomas Hawke's work, by the way. He's the type of, it sort of appeals to my side of photography in the sense of the street and the William Eggleston type style to his work, which I love. But you're right. I think it's quite strange because Google Plus hasn't really, I'm probably going to get shot down now, but as far as I'm aware, it hasn't really taken off as much as it has done in America. There's still a lot of people using Facebook in the UK, but they use it for different purposes. And I think this is very important. Google Plus is a very, very good, how can I describe it, dictionary of photography. You can go in there, dip in, find your aspect, the stuff that you love looking at, and you can just blow your mind on that. Facebook has a more sort of a business approach to photography, where people are searching for business clients, advertising their work out that way, getting involved with groups and communities, which of course you can do on Google. So they are slightly different, and I think your approach has got to be different in both sides. But and then of course you got the others in Flickr and 500px, which mustn't be sniffed at at all, and Pinterest, and those, which are awesome sites to be involved with. So where, in terms of the Arcanum, Les, what's your next step? Because you've got your cohort going now, which is I'm taking up, you're taking those up to Lounge 20, You're doing the first Sphere 1, Foundation and Sphere 1.
That's right.
What's your plans after that?
So we just had the release, I suppose, of Sphere 2, or the announcement that it's about to happen for us. So I'm, fingers crossed, sitting with you guys in the level 20 lounge as well, and go through the process, and I want to level up. I think that's one thing that has always been my I guess not my focus, but it has been a core belief that I want to keep leveling up. I'm yes, I love being a master, but I also want to be an apprentice because I love learning. And so, this is the chance with the Arcanum to experience working with a number of people, not just the masters, but with apprentices as well. And I think that's really important to me. That's very
Mm.
important. So I want to keep leveling up as long as, you know, I can keep leveling up, and tie that in with being a master as well.
Yeah.
Because I
Well,
love that. So in a sense, sorry, Paul, in a
yeah.
sense, it's being able to blend the best of two worlds and create something that's just a whole heap of fun to do.
No, and my apologies. I was going to interrupt you because this is again
Yeah.
another good point you make. Because me and my naivety, I'm thinking you're a master, so you can go and teach whatever level you want to teach. But are you saying then basically, as a master, you cannot, or the preference is for you not to do sphere 2, 3, 4 mentoring? You've got to work
Sure.
to that level. Is that what the way it's been planned?
So the idea is there's a group of, and I guess I don't know, you know, there's
Yeah.
nothing hidden here at all, but the Inception Masters, and there's a big group of us that are Inception Masters, and the whole premise of the Academy is that we all level up. It doesn't matter who we are, whether we're apprentice or whether we're master, we all level up.
Mhm.
And so, you know, we'll find, and I think this is the exciting thing, we're all going to end up sitting next to other masters in the same cohort because all of us are leveling up. So for me, yeah, I'm not prepared to do anything else until I've leveled up, because I want to learn more. You
Yeah.
know, it's, and being a master is much more than being a technically perfect photographer. You know, I
Yeah.
think one of the things, and here in Australia, certainly, you know, with sport is obviously a huge thing, and
Yeah.
we've had some great players in different sports, and I mean, I won't say what I would normally say, but they make very, very average coaches, you know, like really average
Yeah.
coaches.
No, I
And yet,
totally agree with you there.
you know, we've had some so-so players, and they are extraordinary coaches, you know,
Mm.
like gifted coaches. And so I think that applies to everything, not just sport, not photography, anything.
No, I totally
You
agree
know,
with you because it really, to a degree, my football team in London is Chelsea Football Club,
yeah,
one of the famous clubs from the UK at the moment,
yeah,
and their coach is Jose Mourinho. Now, he was not a great Portuguese soccer player. His father was a coach. He played for his father, in and out the team, nothing really special until he got involved with psychology, got involved with sports coaching, and all of a sudden he is widely regarded as one of the best coaches in football in the Northern Hemisphere.
yeah.
Um, there's loads of other players that you see that have never ever been any good as coaches. One of the best footballers in our country, Bobby Moore, that led us to the
Hmm.
1966 World Cup, was no good as a coach. Great
Yeah,
advisor, superb. You know, Bobby Charlton, another great, not
yeah,
really a great manager. And I think
yeah.
you're right. You hit the nail on the head. And coming back to what you're talking about with regards to leveling up, it suddenly just hit me actually. I used to go skiing quite a lot, and what used to amaze me when we'd be in the hotel having breakfast or something like that, or a croissant before we go out to do some skiing, and the ski instructors would ski down and they'd stop, and what in actual fact they were doing were teaching each other as
Yeah.
regards to what they want the program to for all the beginners and the intermediates to do. So there's another classic example of reteaching and tutoring up and leveling up with which is effectively being. I wonder if Trey got the idea from that. No, he wouldn't. No, I don't think he's a skier. not, not not from Texas.
No. No.
We'll
But you
edit
never
that.
know.
We'll edit that bit out. No, we can't because it's live and uncut. Sorry. Anyway, let's talk about your favourite photographer. Who's your
Sure.
favourite photographer, Les?
Well, I have a few, you know, but I think, and he may not be known, he might be, but Ken Duncan, he's an Australian photographer.
Mhm.
Started with wide format, you know, in the 6x17 format cameras, and probably, arguably, one of our best landscape photographers that we've had.
Right.
He Yeah, he's exceptional. I just love the way he shoots. You know, um, the he shoots a lot of. He shot a lot of images from the US. He shot a lot, obviously in Australia. Produced many books and so on. He runs workshops, you know, in different places
Mhm.
around the world. but I just love the feeling, you know, and it's difficult to choose one photographer because,
Yeah.
you know, I look at it and I guess I'm kind of fiercely parochial as well, you know, when it comes to Australia and Australians. So I look at that, but I think if I look big picture, and it might sound a little cliche, but Moose Peterson
Yeah.
and Art Wolf are
Art Wolf,
probably,
yeah,
you know, those three.
he's
Those
an absolute,
three.
yeah, exactly right.
Yeah,
Art Wolf
yeah,
is an amazing, amazing photographer. Actual
yeah,
fact, one
yeah.
of my guests a few weeks back, Rick Salmon, as well. Some of his nature work and landscape work is amazing.
That's right.
But it's interesting you mention that again because my last week's guest was Jeff Curto, the historian, photography historian, and I asked him the same question, and he said without a bat of an eyelid, he just said Eugene Atgay. Now, I don't
Yeah,
know if you're familiar with Eugene Atgay at all,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
turn of the century, this guy was taking photographs of Paris, which really, to a degree, a lot of people didn't really want to see because they wanted the
yeah.
glitzy side. And it suddenly dawned on me that there we are. If you said to me, asked me a question 3-4 weeks ago, who's your favorite photographer? I would have my all-time favorite is Sol Leiter from New York,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
I would have said William Eggleston. I would have said William Klein, Cartier-Bresson, Brassai, Joseph Kudelka, and on those all those sort of street photographers and documentary photographers. And
Yeah,
Eugene Atgay, I had completely forgotten about,
yeah.
and it's amazing. I just took delivery of a book today. It's the Magnum Contact Sheet book,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
which I picked up, and I've just been flicking through the pages and all these images, and you're just going, "Wow!"
yeah, yeah,
It's just
yeah,
amazing. My bookcase is creaking under the weight of books,
yeah,
and I've been told
yeah.
by my wife I cannot buy any more.
Yeah. And you know what, Paul, I think one of the things is whilst we say, you know, we have a favorite, you know what, then I can add in another half a dozen, you
Yeah,
know, without
exactly
even thinking about it, you know, and so you're influenced by so many. And I think sometimes as photographers, we may, and there is certainly a bit of a feeling out there that, no, I wouldn't buy another photographer's work or I wouldn't buy their book. And it's like, why wouldn't you?
exactly right.
Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you
Mm.
just enjoy their photography? It's not about, you know, and sometimes you hear, certainly with landscape work, well, I could go and do that. It's like,
Mm.
okay, you could go and do that for sure. I have no doubt. But you know what? You didn't. And so right now, you know,
Exactly
why
right.
not just enjoy what they're doing, because you can learn so much and you
Yeah.
get to experience the world through somebody else's eyes. You know,
Exactly,
like,
and another point was made to me by never on the show, but a friend of mine that I was walking with never buys a photographic book because he wouldn't want to appear to be copying that work. And I'm
yeah,
going, no, you're looking down the wrong avenue as far as I'm
yeah,
concerned. You've got to
absolutely.
see this work, and you've got to see this work. You've got to study it. You've got to understand it, and then you learn from it. You know, and it's okay. And Jeff Curto mentioned last week, if someone turns around to you and says, "Yeah, I could do that," okay, do it, and
Hmm.
then do it again, and do it
Hmm.
again, and do it
That's
again.
right.
It's
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
when the professional comes to the fore.
that's right.
With all due respect, the amateur photographer probably, or the one-off, it's a lucky dip. Well done, but
Mm,
go out and do it again, and
yeah,
do the work. Like you yourself, how many amateur photographers will actually go there and get themselves pitched up, tripod on, boom, start taking photographs, stayed away, not taking in the atmosphere and understanding what's going on around them, and studying cloud movements, sun movements, whatever.
yeah. I think, you know, the one thing, Paul, is for me, I just love it. You know,
Mm.
because the times that I'm out at the moment, you know, they're not few and far between, but it's not like it used to be. And so I just love it. You know, I
Mm.
for that one moment, you know, I get to go and be somewhere that I love being,
Mm.
knowing that when I finish, I actually get to come home to be with people that I love being with as well.
Exactly
So for
right.
me,
Yeah.
it's a win-win. And
Yeah.
so that time that I have is precious, regardless of where I am. It's precious, and
Mm.
so I try to make the most of what I've got. You know, however long that might be, an hour or 2 hours, whatever. It's irrelevant. I still do the same sort of thing. You know, get a feeling for where I am, because it's just like I don't know, and this sounds really silly, but like a cleansing almost, of saying, okay, all of the hassles you've got at the moment, because everybody has hassles, just
Yep.
let them go away for a little while and enjoy being where you are, because if you don't, then you may as well be home or wherever you should be. You may as well be there instead of here, because you won't actually do anything, and you're probably not going to enjoy it, and then it becomes work.
Exactly
And
right.
that my heart would break then,
And it
if
becomes a
that's what it
hassle
became.
then, doesn't it? It becomes
Absolutely.
all stress up and tension up. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's a very good point, actually. So we've spoken about your favorite photographers, and great that you mentioned 2 or 3 others. I don't mind that at all. Who's been your inspiration?
So again, different times of my life, if you'd ask me as a 17-year-old, it would be, someone else and so on. But right now, it's my son. It is my
Great.
son. He's only 3.5, and he teaches me so much. There's a few images on 500px of a couple of birds that were shot in the backyard, and he's actually crawling over me. I'm lying down, I was half in through a sliding door. My legs were inside the house. I was, my upper body was out of the house, and he was crawling over the top of me as I was photographing some birds. And it's just the way he looks at things. It's so refreshing to see eyes look at it and wonder and think why and why not. It's not, well, I can't, it's, well, why, and so that rattles through my brain, and I think that's just awesome, to see that and be like that again. No limits. There are no limits when you look at little tackers running around. There are no limits with them.
That's right. And the question you said, a very good point there. Why?
Yeah.
Why does it do that, Dad? Why?
That's right.
Because it's doing it. Why? And it just goes on, doesn't it?
It does.
I'm at the other end of the scale now, Les. I've got a 23-year-old who's out with friends from the city. She works in London. My son is 25. He's got to go and pick his girlfriend up shortly because she's out and about with some friends from work. So I'm at the other end of the scale. I've been through all this.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, they never go away. They always come back.
No, and I mean, I don't know this yet, of course, but this is something this is why he, to me, is an inspiration now, because he doesn't know it, and it will be years before he knows it, and it might even not happen until he's in his 20s that he'll actually understand just the impact he's had on me, and I think that's. I kind of look at it the same way with the Arcanum and my apprentices is, and I've said to them numerous times, it's such a privilege for me to sit here and speak with you about your images, and we only get to look at 3 or 4 or whatever, and sometimes it's such a tease because it's such a privilege to sit and listen to you and talk with you because of the way you see your world. Like it's just, I get to see your world through your eyes, a world that I would never have seen. And it's the same with Matthew. I get to see him work in his world, and I'm a part of his world, but I get to see it in such a different way. And I love that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, it's amazing time, especially at that age. And so school will be coming up pretty soon for him, I would have thought.
Yeah. Next year he starts. He's off the kick next year. Yeah.
Oh,
so
there we go. That's all going to kick off then from then on.
It is. Yeah, it is. And he's got 2 teachers in the house as well. So
his mum's a teacher as well. Oh my God, he's got no chance then. Get your homework done. I want to go and use Dad's camera. Oh, mustn't touch that.
I have to tell you this. We've got Matthew a little plastic camera, and it it makes noises and sounds and lights and stuff like that. And he dragged out Nick's, my wife's, old tripod, and he's now setting that up. And he sits there or stands there, and he says, "No, Daddy, you have to look at me like this." And no, not that smile, Daddy. Your real smile. And he takes the photo, and he looks through, and he takes the photo, and it's like, oh my goodness, you're 3.5, and he's got the pose down pat, perfectly. He looks, and he's looking through the viewfinder, and he says, "No, Daddy, that's not how you smile," or "No, you can't sit like that." Or, it's just awesome,
Is this a real working camera, or is it just a toy camera?
Just a toy camera.
But you got to buy him a camera for Christmas.
We're going to. He moves
in case he's watching.
No. But he does everything, and I think that's what I love. That's one of the reasons, because it just takes everything from being super serious.
Yeah, exactly right. Everything's super serious. We're going through politics at the moment with that, because we've got the elections coming up, and then of course But you need something like that just to level it all off and
Yeah, you
just forget all
do.
the stresses of life and go away.
Yeah.
Les, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for joining me on my special day, the 50th episode. And it's been great talking to you, learning about yourself and your photography and how you got started and your beautiful work, which we shared on the screen there. So, and I can't believe it's now nearly was 25 past 4 now for you. So
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Just amazing that you've joined. So
no, it's my pleasure, Paul. And what I was going to say, before we wrap it, I guess, is when you invited me for this, it was supposed to be in June, and then you mentioned that this was your 50th, and I thought, for an instant, I thought, oh, should I? And then I thought, what an awesome way. You're a member of the Arcanum, and I love what you're doing, and to be on the 50th show with you as well. That's super. That's really super. I think it's awesome that you're at 50 already.
Yes, exactly. Well,
thank
you very much for those words. It's very kind of you. Yeah, it's well, that's the end of the 50th show. I'm going to take a week's break next week. Got a little bit of a family party on, so and then I'll be back with show 51. I'm going to try and change it around for my guests that are watching at the moment. I'm going to try and switch it around a little bit because whilst we've been able to get into some in-depth conversations, I'm going to try and have a look, see how we can to switch it around a little bit, so just to keep the interest going. So look out for some changes in episode 51, and we'll go from there. So anyway, that's the end of the show for now, Les. I haven't told you about this, my sign-off, although you've probably heard it because you're listening. As a street photographer, if you are going out shooting this weekend, leave your camera bag at home. All the best to you. Thanks for watching.